Okay, hello everyone. This is the presentations of our groups, Adoring Potatoes. We are going to introduce you about the tapestry, building an e-commerce present. Okay, so the first part I want to introduce to you is emerging your e-commerce present. Okay, the first step is the visioning process. Okay, so vision includes not just a statement of missions, but also identifications of the target audience, characterizations of the market space, a strategic analysis, a marketing market, and a development timeline. For example, Amazon's is to become the largest marketplace on earth. And besides, we have the Facebook and Google's. Each one will have its own visioning process. A succinct statement of missions, purpose, and directions is the key factors in driving the development of your project. Besides that, we have the business model. The basic business models include porter, e-tailer, content provider, transactions broker, market creator, service provider, and community provider. The basic revenue models alternatives are advertising, transcriptions, transaction fees, sales, and affiliate revenue. Okay, so the next part, I'm going to talk about the target audience. Your target audience can be described in a number of ways: demographics, behavior patterns, current consumption patterns, data usage patterns, content creations preference, and buyer personas. The next one is to characterize the marketplace. It is very important features of the marketplace to focus on include the demographics of the market and how an e-commerce presence fits into the market. The structure of the market is described in terms of your direct competitors, suppliers, and substitute products. And the next one is to defining the content. The contents include like the SO SWOT analysis and e-commerce present mark. It is also the three part is very important in identifying the e-commerce presence. And the next one is to developing an e-commerce present map, and also the develop a timeline, milestone, and first ideas of the cost involved. That is all about the first part of our presentations. The next one, I want to introduce to you about the systematic approach.
So about the systematic approach, the systematic development life cycle is a methodology for understanding the business objectives of any system and designing an appropriate solution. It includes five major steps: systems analysis, planning, systems design, building the system, testing, and implementation. We will go to the first part, system analysis, planning. The main purpose is to identify business objective, system functionality, and information requirement. We will try to answer the question, what do we want this e-commerce site to do for our business? The key point is to let the business decisions drive the technology, not the result. And system functionalities are types of information system capabilities that you need to achieve your business objectives. And the next part is system design, software and hardware platform. You must come up with a system design specification, a description of the main components in the system and their relationship to one another. The system design itself can be broken down into two components. The first is a logical design. It includes a data flow diagram that describes the flow of information at your e-commerce site, the processing functions that must be performed, and the database that will be used. And another is a physical design translates the logical design into physical components. For instance, the physical design details the specific model of server to be purchased, the software to be used, the size of the telecommunication links that will be required, the way the system will be backed up and protected from outsiders, and so on. Also, here we have the simple example for a system design. The first picture shows you about a simple data flow diagram. We have customer database, catalog database, and order database. And in the second picture, it shows us some required physical components such as mail server, shopping cart, online catalog, etc. The next part is to building the system, in-house versus outsourcing. So choices range from outsourcing everything, including the actual system analysis and design, to building everything yourself that you need to both build the site and host the site by yourself. It is called in-house. Outsourcing means that you will hire an outside vendor to provide the service involved in building the site rather than using in-house personnel. And the final part is implementation and maintenance. The annual system maintenance is vital, but sometimes not budgeted for. Uh, the annual system maintenance cost will roughly parallel the development cost. For example, an e-commerce site that costs $40,000 to develop is likely to require a $40,000 annual expenditure to maintain. Very large e-commerce sites experience some economies of scale, so that, for example, a site that costs $1 million to develop is likely to require an annual maintenance budget of perhaps half to 3/4 of that cost. So why does it cost so much to maintain an e-commerce site? Unlike payroll systems, for example, e-commerce sites are always in a process of change, improvement, and correction. And the final point is the long-term success of an e-commerce site will depend on a dedicated team of employees. The web team, whose sole job is to monitor and adapt the site to changing market conditions. The web team must be multi-skilled. It will typically include programmers, designers, and business managers drawn from marketing, production, and sales support. So we will go to the part 3.3, choosing software.
Okay, so the e-commerce presents infrastructure includes telecommunications, software, and hardware constitute. A simple versus multi-tiered website architecture, it is, while prior to e-commerce, websites simply delivered web pages. E-commerce is a new way of doing business that allows people to order goods and services by phone or in person. Now, the development of web application servers and multi-tier system architecture is to handle the processing loads. E-commerce sites pull information from and add information to pre-existing corporate database into legacy database. While a multi-tier architecture is a web server linked to a series of application servers. About the web server software, at first, basic web server software is to answer requests from customers for pages. For example, Microsoft Internet Information Services is based on the Windows operating systems. And the site management tools, it is essential to keep your site working to understand how well it is working. The site management tools verify that links on pages are still valid and identify open files or files on the site that you are not linked to any other pages. It helps prevent irritation and frustration in users and understand consumer behavior. For example, WordPress. While WordPress powers nearly one-third of the world's websites, from small personal blogs to the complex sites of major corporations such as Sony, Time Inc., or the New York Post. WordPress is only one of the site builders and content management systems users can download and install for free, but it has unique features that make it the most popular content management system in use today. Well, about the dynamic page generation tools, e-commerce is just like a real market. They are very dynamic. For the requirements, a number of software applications in addition to static pages and the contents of a web page are stored and objected in a database. While dynamic page generation lowers menu costs and permits easy online market segmentation. For the application servers, there are software programs that provide the specific business functionality required of a website. Its purpose is to isolate the details of displaying web pages to users on the front end and connecting to databases on the back end, create e-commerce websites. E-commerce merchant server software functionality. There are online catalog,
Well, there are many online tools to create catalog like catalog machine or Gibberit, shopping cart, credit card processing. A site shopping cart typically works in conjunction with credit card processing software, which verifies the shopper's credit card and then puts through the debit to the customer account. While the best way to build your e-commerce site is to purchase a merchant-level software package, or the other way is to open source merchant-level software that is free to use and modify. So let's come to the next part.
Okay, so the next part is about choosing the hardware platform. Okay, so the hardware platform refers to all the underlying computing equipment that the system uses to achieve its e-commerce functionality. Your objective is to have enough platform to have enough meet the peak demand, but not so much platforms so that you are not wasting your money. On the demand side, as you can see on the slide, the demand is on the website is very complex and depends primarily on the type of site you are operating. One important factor to consider is the numbers of simultaneous users who will likely visit your site. Serving up static web page is I over O intensive, which means it requires input over output operations rather than heavy duty processing power. And on the supply side is how to scale up your site to meet the demand. Outsource the hosting of your website to a cloud-based service. It is all about the scalability is an important consideration. And there are three steps you can take to meet the demand for a service at your site. The first thing is to scale hardware vertically, and the second thing is to scale hardware horizontally. And the final thing is to improve the processing architectures of the site. As you can see on the slide, there are tables of vertical and horizontal scaling techniques. And each techniques include a very important roles in this kind of part. Okay, so the next one I want to tell you about the requirement for a website, e-commerce website.
Okay, so let's move to others e-commerce site tools. The requirement for an e-commerce website, an e-commerce website would be more perfect if it is a coherent website that designed to make business sense. Know how to build active content and interactivities into your site. Must be able to track customers who come, leave, and return to your site to be able to greet return visitors. The second is tools for interactivities and active content. There are many tools for interactivity and active content, but the most popular currently is Java and JavaScript. The Java allows programmers to create interactivities and active content on the client computers, thereby saving consideration load on the servers. Java is used on 97% of enterprise desktop computers. JavaScript is invented by Netscape that is used to control the objects on an HTML page and handle interactions with the browser. Okay, so let's go around with the Shopify's website here. The site works with the most popular browsers. You can use Chrome, Internet Explorer, or Firefox, or anything else to approach the website. You can see the website here avoids distracting, obnoxious graphics and sound that cannot be controlled. There is the searching bar that customer can easily discover about the products they are looking for right on the top of the website. And scroll down a little bit and you can see the simple foolproof navigations product portfolio right here. And there is a wide selections of the products to choose from your consideration as well. As you can select which is your final products at these closes, the purchasing steps are also very simple. Just take you one or two clicks and there are many payments methods available for your convenience. Finally, the information policy set. In developing an e-commerce site, the first one is focus on the set of information policy that will govern the site. The second is to develop a privacy policy, a set of public statements declaring to your customers how you can treat their personal information that you gather on the site. The final is establish accessibility rules, a set of design objectives that ensure disabled users can effectively access to your site.
So there are 4 types of e-commerce software: mobile website and mobile web apps, native apps, and hybrid apps. A mobile website is a version of a regular website that is scaled down in content so that user can find what they want and move quickly to a decision or purchase. A mobile web app is an application built to run on a mobile web browser, built into a smartphone or tablet computer. In the case of Apple, the native browser is Safari. A native app is an application designed specifically to operate using the mobile device hardware and operating system. Because the various types of smartphones have different hardware and operating systems, apps are not one size fits all and therefore need to be developed for different mobile platforms, such as Instagram and Spotify. Increasingly, developers are combining elements of native apps and mobile web apps into hybrid apps. Hybrid apps work similar to web app, but like native apps, are downloaded to the device. For instance, Twitter and Facebook. For planning and building a mobile presence, the first step is to identify the business objective you are trying to achieve. Then you will be able to describe the kind of system functionality that is needed and specify the information requirements for your mobile presence. After that, consider which to develop: a mobile website, a mobile web app, and a native app. It's also important to remember that a mobile website and a native app are not necessarily mutually exclusive. Plenty of organizations have both a mobile-friendly public website for their general web presence, as well as a downloadable native app to accommodate more specific requirements. For design considerations, mobile-first design began the e-commerce development process with a mobile presence rather than a desktop website. The responsive web design tools and design technique make it possible to design a website that automatically adjusts its layout and display according to the screen resolution of the device. However, using responsive web design can be costly, particularly if not coupled with mobile-first design, sometimes making it slow to load and perform on a mobile device. For example, it's Dropbox, GitHub, or Shopify. So that's why adaptive web design was developed to deal with this issue. The adaptive web design will serve different versions of the site or page to different devices based on common screen size and resolution. For example, OpenTable.com, IKEA. And there are hundreds of low-cost and open-source app development toolkits that make creating cross-platform mobile apps relatively easy and inexpensive without having to use a device-specific programming language, for example, Codica or PhoneGap. For performance and cost consideration, if you don't have an existing website, the most efficient process may be to use a mobile-first design philosophy and design a mobile site first. Alternatively, if you can resite existing apps site for mobile access will be least expensive. Building a mobile web app requires more effort and cost than developing a mobile website, and suffers from the same limitations as any browser-based application. The most expensive path to a mobile presence is to build a native app which requires more programming expertise. So this is the end of our presentation. Thank you for your attention. You can feel free to ask any question.